Let's get this over with. I am the rest of eternity to wander pointlessly.
Greetings, Summoner. I'm Slayer of Gods. You can call me Slayer. In this video, we'll be explaining the mechanics of one of the greatest champions in the contest, the Cosmic Ghost Rider. If this is helpful, consider pressing those like and subscribe buttons. This channel is dedicated to teaching you how to master Cosmic Ghost Rider. We have plenty of guides and boss takedowns at your disposal. After this video, I would suggest watching the rest of the CGR guide playlist, including the rotation breakdown. Anyways, enough talking. We're going to be talking for like the next 10 to 11 minutes. That's how a guide works. Let's get moving, shall we? Cosmic Ghost Rider possesses full immunity to effects of Bleed and Incinerate. CGR also has the Cosmic Penance Stare. At the start of a fight against a hashtag villain, CGR inflicts a permanent armor break debuff. This is especially useful for encounters like Killmonger, since he can indefinitely shut down his reverberation ability. CGR fires a Cosmic Blaster on his medium attacks and a Hellfire Explosion on his heavy attack, dealing energy damage. This is very good against champions like Korg who punish physical damage. Cosmic Ghost Rider also has incredibly high block proficiency. Those are some of CGR's base abilities. Let's go over his main kit now. First, we're going to explain how CGR gains his buffs. Finishing a 5-hit combo with the medium attack grants a Vigilance buff lasting 10 seconds, preventing his attacks from missing. When finishing a 5-hit combo with the light attack, you gain a power gain buff lasting 1.25 seconds. When struck, you trigger an armor up buff lasting 10 seconds. You don't want to activate this one too often. When charging a heavy attack, trigger an aptitude buff, increasing the potency of any armor up, fury, cruelty, and precision buffs triggered while aptitude was active by 50% for 8 seconds. Now, notice you gain this aptitude buff when you charge your heavy attack, so you don't actually need to land it for you to gain the buff. When activating a special attack, CGR gains a cruelty buff. CGR also gains a different buff for each special attack. On Special 1 activation, gain an unblockable buff lasting 1 second. Special 2 activation grants a precision buff, increasing critical rating by a lot for 10 seconds. On Special 3 activation, it grants a fury buff, increasing attack rating for 15 seconds. So, to recap, finishing a 5-hit combo with the medium attack grants Vigilance. Finishing a 5-hit combo with the light attack grants power gain. When you're struck, you gain an armor up buff. When you charge a heavy attack, you gain aptitude. When you activate any special attack, you gain cruelty. When you activate a Special 1, you gain Unblockable, Special 2, you gain Precision, and Special 3, you gain Fury. So that is how CGR gains each buff. Now, CGR's mechanics mainly revolve around something called Cosmic Judgements. I'll go over this a few times, so don't worry too much if you get lost just yet. So, when Cosmic Ghost Rider triggers any of the buffs mentioned before, he also inflicts the opponent with the corresponding judgment. Each judgment can only be stacked a single time, but they last indefinitely. Each judgment active increases the duration of any buff triggered by 20%. While you have 5 judgments in place, this bonus is doubled. Upon gaining any 5 or more judgments, CGR places a power lock debuff on the opponent for 6 seconds, and then after this power lock ends or it fails to apply, all judgments on the opponent are converted to armor break debuffs. So now that we got all of that out of the way, let's dive into it, shall we? A judgment is essentially a passive effect inflicted on the opponent when you gain one of CGR's buffs. There's a judgment for every buff that was listed before. So there's the judgment of Vigilance, the judgment of Aptitude, the judgment of Precision, right? Each individual judgment can only be inflicted once, and you can only gain the buff if the judgment is not active on the opponent. Okay, for example, if CGR gains a Vigilance buff by ending a 5-hit combo with a medium attack, right? the opponent is inflicted with the Judgment of Vigilance. Now, while the Judgment of Vigilance is active, CGR cannot activate Vigilance again. So, to put it simply, CGR can only gain Vigilance once while the Judgment of Vigilance is not active. But, he can inflict the Judgment of Power Gain, getting a Power Gain buff, so now you have 2 Judgments, right? Then you can inflict the Judgment of Aptitude and have an Aptitude buff, now your opponent has 3 Judgments. The goal is to do all these different actions and get your opponent to 5 Judgments. When your opponent gets to 5 or more Judgments, they're power locked for 6 seconds. Now, after this power lock expires, all of the Judgments are replaced with an Armor Break debuff. And since the Judgments have been replaced, they're gone, right? And since they're gone, you can gain the buffs again. This is essentially how CGR works. You decide based on your actions what buffs trigger in what order, and then you continuously reset the cycle for more buffs and more armor breaks as well. So think of the Judgments as a little counter telling you how many of the different buffs you've activated in that 5 cycle, basically. And you can treat the power lock once you reach 5 like a little timer, showing you how long before the Judgments reset and you're able to reset and gain your buffs again. So his cycle is very much like clockwork. You gain buffs, then your buffs inflict Judgments, and then the Judgments turn into armor breaks once you have 5. Then you can gain the buffs again, you inflict the Judgments turn into armor breaks. You gain the buffs, you inflict the Judgments turn into armor breaks. You just keep going over and over again. But that's not even it, that's not all of it, alright? Because, as mentioned before, for every Judgment active on the opponent, your buffs gain 20% duration. This is where CGR rotations and playstyles come in. Because what if you want to increase your power gain duration? Well, trigger it after your other buffs. Like, let's say you can throw Vigilance away and you can throw Aptitude away, and then you can proc power gain. There you go, your power gain just got 40% extra duration. Because after all, you choose when you trigger the buffs, like power gain, because you can gain it when you end a 5-hit combo with the light attack. You choose when you're gonna do that, so you can activate power gain whenever you want to. Do you want to increase the duration of your special 3 Fury buff? Well then, make it the last Judgment you trigger. Are you fighting Invisible Woman and you need a strong miss counter? Bring CGR in, trigger Vigilance later in your cycle. That way your attacks aren't going to miss against her while she's invisible. And even better, if you trigger a buff while you have 5 Judgments, then that buff gains plus 200% duration. So you can make practically any buff last 3 times longer than normal. Instead of a 15-second Fury, it's a 45-second Fury. So essentially you get to choose which buffs you want more duration on in any given circumstances. And this is why you've likely heard about what are called Cosmic Ghost Rider rotations, because there are certain orders you can play CGR that are super optimal. There are rotations for all kinds of fights, you know, quick fights, medium length fights, super long, million health pool, Labyrinth or Abyss fights where CGR can do 300,000 damage on a medium attack. And there's even a rotation that allows CGR to spam his special 3 over and over until the opponent dies. So I really encourage you to check out those guides. I explained every rotation in great detail, and I showcase the best ones to help simplify what can seem really complicated and daunting. Make sure to check out the playlist. Now, a couple other side notes. It's important to point out that CGR inflicts each Judgment when he gains the corresponding buff. But it doesn't exactly have to be the same buff from his kit. For example, the Icarus node, if you're unfamiliar with it, basically gives the attacker a Fury buff when they strike the defender. These Fury buffs, even though they're from an outside source, will trigger the Judgment of Fury. Same for the Dexterity Mastery, triggering the Judgment of Precision from CGR Special 2. This is something you need to keep in mind when playing CGR, and something I discuss further in my other content. Another thing about the Cosmic Judgments, if CGR is inflicted with the Fate Seal, he removes all of his Judgments, and he cannot trigger new ones until it ends. So it's just a small way for Mystics to counter CGR, even though he kind of is a Mystic himself, because there is one more thing really great about Frank that I haven't mentioned yet, his signature ability. It says here, the Power Lock debuff triggered when reaching 5 Judgements is upgraded to a Damnation debuff, dealing damage over 6 seconds. Opponents under Damnation are also Power Locked, Heal Blocked, and Fate Sealed. While he doesn't need it, this is a very good ability for CGR. It gives him heal block and buff control to go along with his power control. He essentially becomes a mystic cosmic champion who can also do some tech fights. Because of this signature ability, CGR covers 3 classes in MCOC for me. It's so overpowered that he's able to solo most of the cosmic champions in Abyss of Legends faster than other mystic champions. And the best thing about it, if you want this ability, it doesn't need any sig level past 1, because each level simply increases his damnation damage over time, and we all know CGR's doing just fine on damage. So that's the mechanics and utility of Cosmic Ghost Rider explained. I hope it didn't feel like you needed a PhD to understand that. If you have any questions at all, feel free to leave them below in the comments. I read every single one, and I am more than happy to offer guidance. If this was helpful, make sure to gently press those like and subscribe buttons. They didn't do anything to you. For more CGR content, check out the playlist of guides, and honestly, just the rest of my channel. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have an absolutely outstanding day. Take care, Summoner, and I'll see you in the battle realm.